Hey, what's up, everybody? It's BDF44 coming into another video. So, if you guys have been following me for a long time, I tend to talk in the dark sometimes. I haven't been doing it recently. So all my new people who follow me, this is something I do very, very, very normally. Helps me think sometimes, and sometimes it's not a thing. I'm just turning it on because I have something to say. This is a video about Ben Simmons and the Houston Rockets, and the Rockets being willing to trade Ben Simmons for Ben Simmons. If you've been following me, you know this is something I've been talking about for about maybe a month and a half, maybe 2 months. It's just been very clear and obvious to me that Ben Simmons, of course, was going to be leaving. We understood that and how things were transpiring as the end of the season came about. We saw all that, talked about it at length. If you want to go watch some of my old videos, anything that you see with Ben Simmons' name on it, you'll hear a whole spiel about how I feel about this. So many conversations, many. So I'm not going to try to give you any of the old stuff here. What I will say though is, what I've been hearing is that the Houston Rockets are willing to trade for Ben Simmons, and they're willing to give up picks to do it. And of course, Daryl Morey is kind of like the party that we haven't heard anything and representing his side. We haven't heard a thing about. None of this should be surprising to you if you've been following me. None of this is surprising to me because this is really the only move to make for both teams. Quite frankly, I don't know what's taking so long, other than guys just being in denial about their circumstances. The thing about this particular situation is it's not the most difficult thing to figure out because your options for both parties are very, very limited. So it's not like you got a whole lot to look at. The reality is this: both teams have a player that is very, very productive, that is ultimately a salary dump for various reasons. One being, for the Rockets, John Wall's a salary dump because they have him on an absorbent amount of money, and they have a bunch of young players, and he doesn't fit in with those young players, essentially. Although he could if you wanted to force him, he's taken away from other players, and most importantly, the cap space that his contract represents could be better utilized. That's cut and dry for the Houston Rockets. We know that, we understand that. On Philadelphia's side of things, of course, Ben Simmons put in a trade request, said he's not going to be returning to their team, and is willing to absorb fines in order to ensure that he never has to wear their uniform again. So he's out. Mentally, physically, and emotionally, he will not be a Philadelphia 76er anymore. So they don't really have a whole lot of leverage because of his request. A lot of rumors came out about the request saying that he wanted to be in the California markets. That situation was turned out to be disputed or false. It's more so about him wanting to go anywhere but Philly. So that was the last thing I heard. I'm running with that. If we really want to break this down further, we could just simply say that Ben Simmons is a player who's going to help the Rockets immediately because he's a player who can play some defense and could help facilitate the basketball on a team that already has a lot of weapons that could just use somebody to help pull them all together and play some defense to help them along, get stops. They got Christian Wood, you got Tate, you got Green, you got Porter, you got Sanguin, you got all these different players. Gordon, who's possibly looking to move on as well. Maybe you bring something back for him. They just got a lot of good players, young players. Martin Jr., they just re-signed Dante Exum. So they got a lot of young players that are all aligned with Ben Simmons' timeline, as opposed to John Wall's timeline, which is more so of a win-now thing, being that he's a bit older. Meanwhile, in Philadelphia, what you have is a situation where Joel Embiid is entering his prime, probably headed for an MVP caliber season, and it would be a waste if Ben Simmons is sitting on the sidelines, not injured, and refusing to play basketball for their team. Of course, you're talking about his cap space and the contract, once again, as we said with Wall, that could be better utilized to help Philadelphia, whose timeline is to win now. They got Doc Rivers in place. They got Tobias Harris in place. You got a bunch of players, shooting weapons that are there. Some young players that are ready to go. it's a team that's looking to basically utilize a very, very, very key year for Joel Embiid. And you don't want to waste it. You don't want this to be a year where it's in the toilet before it even starts. Like the Clippers, for example, who has Kawhi Leonard out and no picks to show for anything. So they could go out there and either win a championship or lose for nothing. That's not the type of year Philadelphia is looking to have. If anything, they want to have at least something to look forward to. And John Wall, while he's not Ben Simmons, he is a defensive-minded player. He is an athletic player who facilitates the basketball. He is somebody who can stretch the floor, unlike Ben Simmons. So what you lose in Ben Simmons, you bring back someone who can do similar things and someone who thinks defense, unlike any other player that you probably will be getting back in trade. Also, you understand that the players that they're talking about trading for are not probably going to be of the cachet of John Wall because their contract is obviously not absorbent. And because it's not a big-time contract, chances are to get rid of your big-time contract, you would otherwise have to throw in picks to make someone feel comfortable about taking that contract. As to where with John Wall, they're in the same boat as you, so that negates the theory that they would have the leverage to demand other assets. You could just trade those players straight up. Both teams don't have to give up nothing. As to where if the Rockets want to trade John Wall, they'll too have to attach assets in order to get rid of him. As to which would they do a deal with Philly, same deal. So this has always made sense to me. That's why it's kind of cut and dry. That's why I think this should be done very soon. I understand that the Houston Rockets have come around now, and I understand that the Philadelphia 76ers are still basically trying to figure out if they can trade Ben Simmons for a bigger package. See, the thing is, with John Wall, the Rockets are at peace with parting with John Wall because of how they acquired him. They acquired John Wall by giving up a bad contract in Russell Westbrook. He's not somebody that they came into this situation drafting, have a half of their situation banking on him. He's not a half of a team that basically can get you to the Eastern Conference Finals every year. You know, Philly's a contender every year because they have Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid in place. So essentially, if they're giving up Ben Simmons, if they're not bringing back Ben Simmons' value or someone who can help them do that, it's lost. Their development of this player, the process, all of it is lost. And you run the risk of Joel Embiid saying, you know what, I don't think I can win here. Let me see what greener pastures may be. So they need the urgency to replace Ben Simmons with something at least on par with his value is much greater than that of the Houston Rockets. So I understand why Daryl Morey's holding out. It's a sad situation, but I don't think you can retain value. I don't think there's a deal out there better than John Wall. You could try for whatever Portland to give you, but Portland is not incentivized to give you C.J. McCollum for Ben Simmons' contract unless you're going to throw something on top of it. Same thing with the Sacramento Kings. You could try to do a deal with the Kings, and a lot of rumors are out there that the Kings would be willing to do something. But when it comes down to negotiations, trust you me, the Kings understand they're taking back a big contract. They're not going to do that just to acquire the player the contract's attached to. No, they're going to want some assets on top of that, just like everybody else. So while you may see a lot of rumors out there about trade rumors and trade value and who has to give up this and that, and I don't think many people on the big stations are telling you what type of trade packages to actually expect because they are not really thinking it out themselves, it seems. But I have, and I'm telling you, in order to get rid of either one of those contracts, if these two GMs try to do a deal with any other two teams, they're going to have to attach assets to those players. Those assets are going to be expensive. You're going to have to pay. It's like this. The contract is the contract, right? Whatever the amount of the contract is has to be matched, no matter what the deal is. But if the value of the contract is low, how do you make it so that you're paying less? You see what I'm saying? How do you make something that is at cost be more valuable? The only way to do that is to attach assets to it. You know what I mean? Like we say Ben Simmons is at a cost. You're getting, what I'm trying to say is this: if Ben Simmons is at, say, $40 million a pop, even though I think it's like 33. Let's just say he's at 33. Well, $33 million is going to be $33 million no matter what. If I'm going to bring back $33 million, I have to match $33 million regardless. So how do I make it so that $33 million is worth $15 million instead of 33? If I'm giving up 33, I'd better be taking back something that's going to make it so that it makes sense to me. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I'm trying to express to you guys. I hope I've done that. There will be no weird trades where Ben Simmons goes out or John Walls goes out and they bring back 8 players and 3 picks and all that. It's never going to happen. There is nothing logical about expecting that type of return at all in either one of those situations, because these players are salary dumps. Now, even though they can help you, and if they were at a different cost, you have to value them differently. In other words, if Ben Simmons is at $10 million a year, well, now you're talking about, okay, well, not $10 million a year, but $10 million total. Like, let's say Ben Simmons was on a contract that was significantly less. Well, now you're taking into the account what the player brings to the table, who the player is, defensively, what he can bring to your table. In that case, you can start asking for picks. That's when them real trade packages that make sense for the type of player that it is starts to come into play. 3 players, 3 picks, all that. Because the player is not at a value price that's going to hurt your cap. You see what I'm saying? But if I'm bringing that same player in at $40 million, that's not helping me. I don't care what the body of the player is and the mind of the player himself is. It's the contract that's going to scoot me into a position in my cap where I can't get better. I can't get pieces in that can help make this player a champion. I can't make the team better because I'm stuck with the player's contract. And so that is what all fans need to kind of work into their equation when they're considering what trades are going to look like, what to expect when your favorite player gets shipped out. What type of contract is that player attached to? Is that contract reasonable for the player's production? Is he going to play up that contract so people feel good about bringing it in? Or is this somebody who's going to be heading in the other direction, as to which you'll probably have to make it sweet for someone to want to take it? So I really hope that I was able to stress that point just fine, so that everybody who follows me ain't going to be surprised when they see Ben Simmons shipped out and see like 2 picks attached to him, and Philadelphia is getting fleeced to hell just to get rid of that contract. Because that's exactly what's going to happen if they don't do this deal with the Houston Rockets. That's exactly what's going to happen. And I think Daryl Morey is trying to avoid that. The Philadelphia brass is trying to avoid that as a whole. That's why they're talking about having him hold out and stretching this thing out into the season and see if he folds before they do. Because ultimately what they're hoping he will do is renege on this trade request. They bring him back and not have to go through this right now. He can play his value up for half a season, and they'll trade him at the halfway point or at the end of the season when his contract is 1 year off what it is right now, or to where he can play his value up to all-star status again, as to which people will want to take on the contract and not feel as bad about it. But right now, the value of that contract is on the ground, which means picks, assets, and then maybe I'll take it from you. Unless I got the exact same type of deal that you got, John Wall. Unless I'm the Rockets and I got a player who's just as a real valuable player, someone who's on a big-time contract that doesn't make no kind of sense, someone who could win now, all this stuff. Everything lines up so perfectly for both teams. They just have to swallow their pride and get to it. And I've been saying for a month and a half that this is inevitable. This is literally prolonging the inevitable. That's what this is for Philadelphia, in my opinion. Houston's already come to terms with it. They fielded the offers. They've did the due diligence to find out that there's nothing out there for John Wall. As I told them there wouldn't be. I mean, you know that already, though. Like a good GM, if you're sitting in the Houston Rockets, you already understand that you're not going to be able to get rid of John Wall. You know that. In fact, I don't think John Wall trade requests ever manifest if Ben Simmons ain't on the trade market. That's another thing I think I could share. That's a new thought. I don't even think John Wall and his representatives place a call to the Rockets and say, hey, get me out of here, if Ben Simmons is not on the block. Because essentially he knows that he wouldn't be able to go to a place that's going to help him win. He has a better chance of winning where he's at than any of the other places that would be able to acquire his contract. this is a unique situation with Ben Simmons coming up saying, yo, I don't want to be here, to where he could say, yo, this allows me to get to Philly, not get bought out, keep my current contract at the price that it is, and still play for a situation I'd love to be in. You know, this is like one of those situations where it's like, ooh, opportunity. All right, let's jump. As opposed to a guy like John Wall, who's probably looking at the Rockets if Ben Simmons doesn't do this and say, well, it's a young team. I can run with them. I got a young guy like me, Porter, who I can kind of help along the way. This is a situation where even though I come and be pushed to the side, I'm still making my money. I'm on a team with a bunch of youngsters. This ain't that bad. But it ain't going to help me win a championship. You put me with Joel Embiid, and I at least got a shot at it. You're gonna see me up there at least in the second round. So, yeah, that's what I wanted to share. I don't necessarily think John Wall wants out from Houston just in general. I think he wants to be in Philadelphia and sees it's an opportunity to get to a contender. You know what I'm trying to say to you guys? It's like this trade request came about for Ben Simmons, in my opinion. That's what I think happened. Because, again, there's no real upside to John Wall requesting a trade unless he's going to a contender. Because the situation he's in is really fine. It's not bad. It's just not as good as Philly would be for him. You know what I mean? So, yeah, that's the new news, or the new opinion I guess I could share, because all this other stuff has already been said. I hope at the end of the day that they can get this done soon, because I don't want to see a situation where Ben Simmons is starting his season still on the Philadelphia 76ers because the Philadelphia 76ers are trying to hold on to something that ain't real. You know what I mean? As I said in the analogy in a previous video, I can walk into a Lamborghini dealership with a $5 bill, the gift of gab, and a whole lot of confidence. And it does not mean that I'm driving out of there with a vehicle. It's not happening. You got to pay the cost for whatever it is that you're trying to acquire, or whatever it is you're trying to get rid of in this case. And the cost is going to be this is a salary dump, a glorified salary dump. And if you don't attach something to it to make the representative value, which is on the floor, be, you gotta make that price as it is, as the market sees it is, then you won't be able to get rid of the goods, which in this case is Ben Simmons services. So up the price, get the price order, get you know, get the money in order, and you'll be able to do what it is that you're trying to get done. Because ain't nobody trying to hear this whole talk about, oh, well, we want 4 players for our great player Ben Simmons. No, he's not a great player Ben Simmons. He's a bad contract Ben Simmons. If you would have kept him on a good contract and not paid him all this money before he developed properly, he would be great player Ben Simmons. You see how that works, people? And that's something that the fans need to understand, and something that our big networks should do a great job of trying to share with us and get us to understand as well, is that it is all about what the contract says it's about. You know, you're sitting here watching me on camera. I'm doing this for free. So that means all the production equipment, all the stuff that's necessary to make this a real professional production doesn't exist, right? So you're not expecting for me to come with all types of lights and stuff, big suit like Stephen A. That's not what I'm bringing to you, because I'm not funded by anybody. So when I come on here, you get exactly what you have here. Now, if I get $1 million worth of funding, I'll have a whole setup in here, studio sessions, big equipments, all kinds of stuff. It'll be the same me talking to you, but at a different value. Now, whether or not I'm giving you good stuff or regurgitating nonsense to you will determine whether or not I live up to that value. Mind you, you pour millions and millions of dollars into me, and then this conversation turns into, well, can LeBron James win? Can he, you know, saying stuff that just is regurgitated nonsense? Then the value of what it is I'm bringing to the table suddenly isn't up to par with what it is that's being invested in me. You see what I'm saying? There's a lot of different ways to kind of understand what it is I'm trying to bring to the table. At the end of the day, the value of the player, if you look at me with someone who has high value, it's high value as it pertains to me not having any budget. And if you pour trillions of dollars into me and I'm not upping my game, chances are I'm not living up to that value. Same person, same potential, different value, different situation. So that's the analogy. I hope you guys got it. I hope I made it make sense. And at the end of the day, the saving grace for a guy like Ben Simmons is the fact that he has his career set in stone with his contract. One way or another, he's getting all of his money. And that's the beauty of the situation. We could talk circles about how he can't shoot, how he doesn't make the team better, or whatever words that you're going to put together to describe Ben Simmons' certain circumstances. But what you can't say is Ben Simmons missed out on some money. What you can't say is Ben Simmons is going to leave the NBA and not be a wealthy man. That situation's straight. He got that straightened out, and that's a good thing. When we're talking about just people in general, you want to see people be successful in what it is that they love doing. Even when struggles come about, you want to see them get their money. So that's the good thing about that. Yeah, I'm babbling at this point. I've gotten it all out, man. I would love to give you guys new news. That's what I want. They need to make this trade happen so I can get on here and tell you how much of a genius I am for coming up with this before everybody else. Because I've literally been saying this for months, or a month, I should say. So that's what I got, man. Check your boy out. I've been making videos on every team, so your favorite team may have been mentioned already. I think I'm 20 in, got 10 to go. And some of the big names still haven't been done yet. I still got the Nets, Atlanta, the Timberwolves still have to be done. Chicago, Rockets, Cleveland, 3 of my favorite teams this year still haven't been done. So look for me to try to tackle some of those teams, all of those teams, and check out some of my old videos where I break down your favorite team and try to give you an understanding of what I expect from this year's roster. So that's what I got. My name is BDF44. Thank y'all for watching. I'm out.